This is the video explanation for sentence diagrams for your week 13 assignment, which is your last diagramming assignment of the semester. We're dealing with sentence transformations, and we're going to start with anticipatory appositives. Remember that an appositive is a noun structure that clarifies or modifies another noun. It's diagrammed right directly after the noun it modifies, and it goes in parentheses. And in this case, all of them are noun structures, so they're going to go up on pedestals. Anticipatory appositives, remember, always start with it, and then whatever follows the sentence. So that's one way to identify anticipatory appositive, is how the sentence starts. So with all of our diagrams, we start with the main sentence first. So we have subject it, our be verb is, and helpful is an adjective. And then the rest of it is the appositive. So that is our main diagram. It is helpful. Subject, be verb, adjective makes that a pattern 1. Our appositive goes right after the subject in parentheses, and it goes up on that pedestal. We start with an infinitive, which, remember from a couple weeks ago, is diagrammed as a prepositional phrase. So we put the 2 on the slant, and understand is the verb that goes on the horizontal, and understand what, because it is an action verb. Understand context is the direct object, the noun, and then we just have all of these modifiers to put in here. The definite article, the adjective, and the prepositional phrase are all modifying context, so they go below. Because it is a verbal, we do need to identify a sentence pattern with it. We have an implied subject, a transitive verb, and a direct object makes the appositive a pattern 7. Again, we have an it is surprising, so a basic diagram for our main diagram. Subject, be verb, adjective is pattern 2. We have to throw a not in there to make it negative. And then we move on to the appositive. This one is kind of a straightforward regular diagram where you have subject is companies, perform is the action verb, and perform what is perform a play is the direct object. So we diagram that, and then we just put in our modifiers. Theater is an adjective describing company, often is an adverb telling when, goes below the verb, and then we have this, which goes with play. The only thing we're left with is our that. That is an expletive. It's just there to connect the parts of the sentence. It doesn't really have any grammatical meaning or weight in the sentence. So expletives, remember, are diagrammed on the ledge above the verb of the clause it's introducing, connected with that dotted line, and then we're done. So then the last thing we need to do is identify the sentence pattern for our appositive. Subject, action verb, direct object is a pattern 7. It is fun is our main subject, or our main sentence, so that's a pattern 2, as we've seen in the last 2 examples. Our appositive follows in parentheses directly after. In this case, we have a gerund, which is the ing form functioning as a noun, so that goes diagonal on that step structure. Then we switch and treat it as a verb. Watching what? Watching fireworks. So we have a transitive verb and a direct object, and then we have all of these things are modifying fireworks, so they go below. So the positive structure is going to be a pattern 7 with a transitive verb and direct object. Now we switch to sentence appositives. Sentence appositives start with the main part of the sentence, and then they're divided by a comma. I think in all cases, I'm careful about saying always in English, but pretty consistently. And then you have this noun structure that follows that kind of modifies the first part of the sentence. Sentence appositives are diagrammed differently. If you have room, which I usually don't on these slides, you diagram both of the separate diagrams next to each other, but in all of the cases, I think I've done them below just because of the space factor. So there are separate diagrams, and they're not connected visually in any way. So what you want to do is do the first part of the diagram first. Subject Katharina is a be verb, and rebellious is our adjectives with the modifier below. So we have a pattern 2. And then our comma divides, and so we know that we're switching to the appositive here. And sentence appositives are followed by a noun that is describing the first part of the sentence. So we have our noun fact with its indefinite article, and then we have a regular diagram that's going on here with subject, verb, and object. So we have that as our subject, frightens as our action verb, and frightens whom, frightens suitors as our direct object with its modifier. And then we put fact connecting with a dotted line to show that that and fact are related. And then we just need to identify the sentence pattern here with subject, transitive verb, direct object is a pattern 7. Again, we're just going to go to the comma on this one to start with. Taming of the shrew is our noun. It's 1 unit. Explores is our action verb. Explores what? Explores reality is the subject. And then we just put in our prepositional phrase here. What reality are we talking about? The reality behind conventions. What conventions of Renaissance marriage? And I had to put the over here so I could fit things. So then our definite articles go here. And that's the pattern 7. So our first clause is pattern 7, subject, transitive verb, direct object. Now we hit our comma and we can do the appositive. Again, we start with this noun, which is topic. But in this case, instead of having a nice, neat, complete diagram, we just have the noun with a whole bunch of modifiers. So we put our noun here, the indefinite article, and then we just do all of our modifiers. Unexplored is a participle. It's functioning. It's a verb form. Functioning is an adjective modifying a noun. So it goes below on the diagonal to show it's that participle. And then we just have the prepositional phrases that flow down by there from there. Keep in mind that because we do have a verbal, it needs to have a sentence pattern associated with it. So topic would be the subject. Unexplored is the action verb, and then we have nothing following, so it's a pattern 6. The next one we have performance is subject, was is our be verb, and then we have 2 adjectives. So we put our backslash showing that we've got subjective complements. So subject, be verb with adjectives as subjective complements makes the first part a pattern 2 sentence. And then we have the appositive, and again we've got a noun experience with just modifiers. So we've got our indefinite article, our adjective, and the prepositional phrase that are modifying. There's no verb there, so we don't need to worry about a sentence pattern. So that one is done. The rest of the exercises for this week is a nominative absolute. This one again is diagrammed next to the main diagram, and you do it in the order in which it comes in the sentence, which doesn't necessarily mean that the main subject or the main clause is going to be first. And there's, again, nicely, the elements of the diagrams are separated by a comma. So we have Katharina subdued. We start with, there's no subject or there's no verb there. We have a participle. So we're going to start with that. Nouns always go on the horizontal. Subdued is a participle, so it goes on the diagonal in the structure below. And because it is a verbal, it has a sentence pattern. Subject is Katharina. Subdued is an action verb with no direct object. So we have a pattern 6 for that part of it. And now we can get to the main part of the sentence, which we know how to diagram. It's fairly straightforward. Petruchio is our subject. Can cause are the verbs. Cause what? Cause love is the direct object, and freely is the adverb telling us how. So subject, transitive verb, direct object makes it a pattern 7. She is now the perfect wife. We start with our main clause here with subject verb. So we have subject, and a be verb, and noun as the subjective complement. We put our modifiers below, and we have a pattern 3. We've hit the comma, so we move to the other one, which again normally would be next to, but I just don't have room on the slide here. So we have our noun is behavior, which goes on the horizontal, and we have the 2 modifiers, the possessive and the prepositional phrase, which go below. No verb there, so it doesn't need a sentence pattern. We're done with that one. The play ends ironically. So we have play as our subject, ends is our verb. It's an action verb. Ends what? There is nothing following. Acting as the direct object, so this is a pattern 6. We put our modifiers underneath, and then we move to the second half of the sentence. So we have our noun, which is Katharina, and then delivering is a verbal. It's a participle describing Katharina, so it goes on the diagonal on the structure below. And then we treat it as a verb and say it's an action verb. So delivering what? Delivering a speech is the direct object for the verb. To whom? To the wives, to the other wives, is the prepositional phrase that goes below the verb. And what is the speech about? On proper behavior modifies speech, so it goes below that. We do have a verbal, so this one needs a sentence pattern identification. Deliver is an action verb. Speech is a direct object, so this is going to be pattern 7. And the last one, we start with hands on hips. So we start with the noun on the horizontal, the preposition goes below, and we hit the comma, so we're done. No verb on that one, so no sentence pattern necessary on that one. And now we get to the main part of the sentence. Woman is our subject. Shouted is the verb. At the top of her voice is a prepositional phrase, so there's no direct object. And then we just have a whole bunch of modifiers. Young women are modifying, young and the are modifying woman. Playing is a participle that again is modifying which woman we're talking about. So that's going to go on the diagonal below. Playing whom or what? She's playing Kate. So that does have the direct object that goes on that main line following the vertical line dividing. And then how is she shouting? At the top of her voice are the two prepositional phrases that follow there. So now we do sentence patterns. We have subject, intransitive verb makes the main sentence a pattern 6. And then we do have a preposition, or excuse me, a participle that needs to be identified with a sentence pattern. So playing is an action verb. Kate is the direct object. So we have a pattern 7. So when you're dealing with sentence transformations, the first thing you want to do is decide which category it falls into. Remember, anticipatory starts with it and then has something following that clarifies. Sentence appositive is divided into 2 parts with a comma, and the appositive is clarifying the whole main part of the sentence. And then nominative absolutes has some sort of noun structure that is working with the main sentence. Remember that anticipatory appositive is all one unit, one diagram mixed together. Sentence appositives and nominative absolutes are 2 separate diagrams, diagrammed next to each other. If there's a verb in any part of these elements, you have to give it its own sentence pattern identification. And again, just work one step at a time, isolate your prepositional phrases, isolate your verbals, and figure out how everything is working together, and it should just kind of follow step by step and not be too complicated.